Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So the recording has started. Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. So today we have with this Miss Patricia, who will be talking on BPM and hyper automation and our business handwork. So, ma'am, over to you. You may please continue from here.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. So thank you for the invite, first of all, and it's my pleasure, like, to talk about the industry I've been working with for a few years. So I wouldn't say like I can cover like all the topics, like what is going on in the real-time industry, but so far, like I work as a software consultant, and I've been playing the role of the technical delivery manager in this industry like for a couple of years. And I've been here with the experience of like almost like 7.5 years. So with what and all I have seen through the industry, like for the past all the years, as well as like what is ongoing currently in the industry, is what I would want to share with you. So today, like, we'll discuss about the topic of the BPM, which is business process management, and hyper automation, how it is unraveling the business handwork. So just to give a quick outline or an overview, these are the kinds of topics that we'll touch base in today's session. And I don't want this session to be a monologue. If at any time you feel that you have a question or you want to raise anything, just feel free to unmute and raise. No worries. So I'll quickly jump into the business problem. So any industry, like be it the IT sector, the banking or the financial sector, the government sector, there is some kind of problem. When we say a problem, it is some kind of task which we are trying to solution, which we're trying to analyze and automate or do something. So here in any part of the I'm sorry, in any segment of every different sector here, we will have pretty much one main or like one predominant use case, one predominant difficulty factor, or anything which can be done through which has been done through multiple years, which is what I'm trying to bring up here, which is the manual processes. So handwork or the manual work is nothing but be it the medicine sector that you take, or financial sector, or even the IT industry. So whatever is the services industry that you are in, there will be like some segments of work which is pretty much a manual task force. So this will involve several drawbacks or pain points. So that is what we are going to see, like how this has come into the industry and how like this particular solution has helped to solve all these pain points whenever we do any manual work. So like we take your education system itself, so something which can be done through computers, something which can be done through any systematic process, if it is being done as opposed to that, if it is being done by a human being, there is some lag. So that is what we where we see main pain points or difficulties in terms of a day-to-day routine. So here when we say, like, for example, these are like just a few pain points or drawbacks I've listed down here, but like there are a hell lot of pain points, or even I would say like pitfalls when it comes to like the manual task force which is involved in any industry. So there might not be like an intelligent task force or like environment where you can have an integrated workforce, which means like there might not be like a connectivity between each of the different departments who is working within that sector. Or if you're in the services industry, very basic processes what you'll have to solve for a day-to-day routine, versus anything which is like a complex a multiple system integrated process end to end. When you solve a particular solution, there might be certain places where you will need human interventions. There might be certain places which might be like a mundane task, which is nothing but like a daily when you feel like even as when you speak, even as when you study your subjects in your day-to-day life, you might feel it a little bit overwhelming, you might feel it a little bit mundane if you're doing the same subject, if you're doing the same topic every single day, right? So like even your day, like when you're divided into multiple periods in a specific department wherever you're placed in. So that is the main reason, to ensure that it is not going in I mean, like it goes in a cycle and it is not going in a repetitive process. So these are some pain points in terms of time consumption, the efficiency of the process not being up to the mark, the productivity of like how much outcome we can derive from any process, and what is the effort, and even like when it comes to the financial aspects, what is the amount of money and time which is being invested into every single process. That is what will basically determine the efficiency and the output, whatever is that process going to deliver. And this is going to be the major drawback or a pain point, which pretty much influences any industry you are in. Say for example, if you are in the health sector, then doing some tasks on a daily routine, that will help you, I mean like that will keep on increasing exponentially if you are into that same sector for a longer period of time. So here I would want to present the BPM, or like where is BPM going to solve this? Where is BPM coming into the picture here? BPM is nothing but, like as the acronym states, it is like a business process management. It is nothing but it is involving, it is a discipline. It is pretty much involving multiple platforms or different tools which are basically used as methodologies to discover, analyze, and bring a new solution where pretty much all the different nodes in the processes. So say for example, like take an insurance sector or take a banking sector. So there might be several processes in that, where like right from customer facing, you need to get or collect the details from the customer. Then that has to undergo some processing, and after which that might undergo like further storing of the data, further like capturing of additional details, doing a automated process like every month or every year, producing reports, inventory of all those data, all these things. So a big platform which can solve these processes in a much easier way rather than involving human intervention in every step. So that is what we are trying to deal with here, and like as part of the business process management. So this can help any segment or any sector, I would say. And pretty much the automation has come into every single home, like even into the education industry, the government sector, all the processes that you see for the health, the medicine, everything has now been automated. So when you say automated, certain pieces of it might be like just to improvise whatever you have been doing yesterday, how it has been improvised today. That might be the only difference that you see. But in certain pieces, there might be like additional factors which might be a little bit overwhelming or a little bit bearing the burden, from in terms of reducing the human task force itself, in terms of using a combination of different methodologies, a combination of different platforms, basically to solve the process. So the BPM platform, we choose a BPM platform typically based on many of these criterias. So a few benefits I would call out, or a few criteria where you would be able to question if your service, whatever you are, wherever you're in, if that will need a BPM software, if that will be helpful or appropriate fit for your process. That is going to be the question which like all these criteria could answer. First, I would touch upon like when you're having a customer based support. So any service industry, like right starting from retail, the banking sector mainly, education sector, all these things where you're facing the customers, where you're facing some clients, you are in the need of satisfying their needs first. So that becomes your priority. Making the interface, like for example, you're building like anything which is automated, there will be certain points, touch points where users will be interacting with the system. So there isn't going to be like fully automated, like for example, like even if when you're in a manufacturing industry, when you're in a manufacturing factory, so there will be like several machines which has to be run for the production, for the inventory, all those things, but still there will be certain touch points which will be controlled by humans. So where we would need the users interacting with the systems. There comes into play the key or the efficiencies of the BPM platform, where it has to provide a good user experience. At the same time, it has to reduce the efforts that the users are getting basically out of it. So that is what is the key effort. And the other aspect to it is anywhere it should be accessible. So when we say like the point cloud-based tool, so it can be hosted like all these platforms, BPM platforms, whatever I'm working, it can be hosted within like on-premise. We call it as like on-premise versus cloud, which is nothing but on-premise is like a physical server for your all the data storage for your like where your actual platform is running. All that is being hosted within your network, within your company's site. That is when we call it as an on-premise one. And a cloud-based one, you might already know. So all the like wherever the physical servers are not hosted within some, it is not confined within a physical environment, and it is like just all your data resides in the cloud, all your processes, everything is going in the cloud. Then that particular platform can be called as a cloud-based tool. And irrespective of whether it is on-premise or whether it is cloud-based, these platforms are pretty much designed to solve the day-to-day processes, which are from the basic processes to complex processes, whatever is available in that particular sector. And obviously, any sector that you take, it is not going to be one source of system or like one oversight of the process. It might be different systems of data. Say, for example, like taking a financial institution. I work for a financial client currently, so I'm just taking that as an example. Their funds related data comes from a different system. All their client related data is hosted within their network itself. And all their processing, their documents, the repository of the documents, everything resides in a totally different system. So when you look at as a end-to-end process, which you would need to automate, which means like right starting from the initial point where you gather the details, get in touch with your clients, and then propose or like share your fund related details, and then rotating the funds, all those things will have to happen, and finally creating the documentations, all these things. Now you need to create an integration or an interaction between all these different systems. So it is not like a one-on-one system and human intervention or a human connection. It is also between multiple systems that are involved in your process. So whenever your client comes into picture, two key functionalities or two key features I would say that will matter. One is how functional is your solution going to be, and how comfortable or how usable it is going to be for the end user. That is when we will have this BPM platform and all these things. So these are just like a few BPM tools or platforms I've listed out. There are like several lot of BPM platforms and like BPM tools which are involved in. So we have multiple platforms like Appian, the Pega, RPAs, robotic process automation, document processing itself, the intelligent document processing. Under that itself, we have like several lot of tools. And for AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, we have Azure-based tools, Microsoft-based tools. All these things are different tools or vendors which basically produce or help providing the business process management. So currently, the solution that I am working in is Appian. So Appian is just one of the tools that we just spoke about. It is one of the framework for the business process management. And like Appian, we have like several lot of other tools and platforms as well. And I would like just want to touch base a little upon like how things work out within this platform, since like I am more closer to this platform only. And I'll touch base on the other technologies like just on a brush shortly after this. So first, to give a brief overview of Appian itself. So similar to how you do the coding, right? Like today in learning, like you might have been going through C coding, Java, .NET, Python, all these different languages. So Appian is also kind of a similar tool only, or a platform, I would say. Appian has its own source code. Appian source code will be in Java language, But when you come into the Appian platform tool, it has its own coding. So when you're going into the platform, it is like not Java code that you type, it is Appian's own code that you will be typing. So that is like kind of, it will give you a flexibility of plug and play solution to certain extent, as well as it will give you a flexibility in terms of doing the coding itself, doing the actual building the process or building the network, the workflow itself. That is how Appian operates. So why Appian, or like how Appian serves as the BPM tool? It is a low code software development. That is the most interesting factor, I would say, or the most demanding factor, which makes any different BPM solution or any different platform the highest in the list of choices across the whole world. So when, even like if you take your education system itself, say, anything which you can do it quickly and anything which you can produce a better result, that is what will be termed as the most efficient system. It is the same way how Appian is being treated, and it is the same way how it is being evaluated across other BPM tools. So here it is pretty much a software development platform only. So any business applications that you would want to automate, you can build it here. So it is basically like easy to build, easy to deploy, easy to manage the different customer interactions, the client interactions, and an end-to-end workflow when it comes. Appian will be a good choice. So you can use or have even like additional reporting metrics, which is pretty much coming under the analytic features. Where you would want to integrate with other systems, you'll be able to do that. And where you want to take any initiatives to the next extent, any operational outcomes that you would want to use, anything that you would want to reduce time consumption in certain steps of your processes, Appian will be helping to do that or to accomplish that within your BPM processes. So these are some basic advantages or benefits, I would say, in using Appian as a tool. So Appian, as I mentioned, it is like a easy to design platform. So when I would show you a few screenshots and like few things like how the actual product will look like and how it will be working in a live environment. So that will give you some idea of how we would be designing it and how we would be data modeling it, and what and all other features will go into that. So here it can host or it can be a repository, one source repository where you can unify all the data. So which pretty much means that, say, if for your end-to-end process you need to connect with 10 different systems, then this can be a workflow tool where each step in your process can include or interact with that specific group or department of the people, and that can use the connection with outer or external systems outside of Appian tools. That can be pretty easy or pretty simple in terms of the speed or the quality of delivery as well. And we can include the other factors here. So which means like intelligence enabled, like you can incorporate AI or machine learning within this tool. You can incorporate document processing features within this tool, the cloud capability, or like basically hosting your data within the cloud server versus the on-premise. All these things you can do it. And any point of time, how performant is your system, that is another key factor which determines. Say for example, you automated all these solutions and you brought in all these computerized workforce into your network, and now if it is going to take more time than what you were doing the same process yesterday manually, then there is no point in using that system itself. So how efficient it is in terms of the performance of it. Like if entering the details, like if it is just like task where you enter some manual details, how efficient it is, like how quickly you can do that. What and all are the key steps where you can optimize your system, where you can make it perform a little more efficiently, or like even more quickly than a manual task force. That is where Appian or any business process, in that matter of fact, will be helping to solve your day-to-day process. And obviously, like when it comes with future tools, any platforms, when it comes, it will be able to integrate itself with an easy integration. That is when you would be able to actually visualize the process in a much more end-to-end aspect. And so here I would stop for a few of the snapshots and few of the processes on how we will deal with. So this is kind of a snapshot how we will be designing a process workflow in Appian. So it is pretty much a few of the features are being coded, like all these nodes that you see. This is like a kind of a sample process workflow that we build. So say, for example, taking like an education, like tomorrow you would want to build a leave management system. Like some of us will be doing the projects, right? At school, at universities. So, and if you would want to build that end-to-end process, we'll need to collect that details from the student, then we'll need to store that, then it has to go through the approval workflow, then it has to finally submit or like review all those details. So this is how we will configure that in a workflow standpoint. So when it comes to a workflow, it is nothing but a drag and drop feature, as you can see here, but every single node will have its own components, in the sense it will have, say for example, if it is like purely a form where you're going to enter in details, capture the details from the customer, there'll be different configurations which you will have to configure for that. But the actual form itself, that is going to be source coded in within the Appian platform. So you need not build or need not worry about the source code here. The only thing that you will have to learn here is learn or like worry about here with this tool will be its own Appian coding, like how you can build that process efficiently and how you can configure all those steps to connect with the users, end users, and to connect with the multiple systems. So these processes are pretty much can be driven from the user interactions itself. Like when a user comes into the system and kicks off a process, then these can kick off. Or if you would want to automate it to the next level, like some automatic things which like based on some events happening, if these processes have to be triggered on a periodic basis based on certain frequencies, then that is also configurable. So say for example, daily at 7 a.m. I need to get an email notification with a report or a list of items which is pending in my inventory, which is pending as tasks for my department. Then that is doable here with this process. So you'll just need to configure or schedule that utility process basically with the timing configurations. And then within the process, you will basically configure the nodes to grab the data from whichever system. If it is like within that Appian system itself, just query the data from there. Or if it is from a different system, how you would connect through the outside third-party credentials and how you would get that data. So that is what you'll be needing to do within that process workflow. And this is just a snapshot of how a process modeler will look like in Appian system. And this one is the design view of how we would design the UI of it. So say in like in the previous snapshot, I showed a workflow where certain nodes of it or certain steps will be automated or done by the system, and certain steps will be done by the end user, in the sense like where we would need the human interaction. For example, say we need to generate a document based on the details entered by the user. So the step where the details are being entered by the user is something which is going to be done by the user interactions through forms and through tasks or so. And the next step where we grab the other details, we store the other details, and we generate the document itself, that is going to be done by the system. So those activities will be carried out by the system. When it comes to the forms or the actions where we have the human intervention, this is kind of a sample design mode interface. So here again, similar to how you saw in the process model dashboard, here in the UI dashboard as well, there'll be like readily available plug and play components. So say for example, you need to build a form like where you need like 10 text fields, you need a little section with some table like information. You need a report to be added. You need a file upload component. You need a barcode scanning component, a date and time component, drop down choices. All these things are some of the components which will be readily available in the platform. So when you're adding it or when you're doing the code, you don't have to worry about actually building a text field, but you will have to worry about, or like you, the only time where you would go into building that form will be to place or to use that coding leveraging all these components. So I wouldn't say it is a 0% no code platform. It involves definitely code, but it is a low code software platform in the sense like when you're building a form, for you to build a form with say 10 text fields, 5 paragraph fields, and say other components, if you have to do it like with the other different languages, right, starting from like the .NET, Java platform, anything, then you'll have to write the coding from scratch. But here, there are certain pieces which evolves or which operates as plug and play solutions, and certain pieces where you might need to do the actual coding itself. Like if you want to pull the data from the system, that will require coding. When you want to show these or customize these components, when you want to save the data from the components, how you would want to place these components in multiple layouts. All these things will involve some amount of coding. So this is kind of the design phase where like you will be actually doing the coding itself. And this is kind of the actual how it will look for from an end user experience. So once you design this form is what you will be designing basically in that particular in the previous page, like whatever you're designing here, that is how it will show up here, like when it comes for the end user. So your end users also have to be licensed users within the system. That is one key main feature that is required. And we have other options as well in Appian, like where we can enable portals or website for the end users, where pretty much they can interoperate with the system without coming into the system, without logging into with licensed accounts into the system. So this is a very basic UI or an interface where you have some text fields, radio buttons, drop-down options, buttons, and milestones, or like the dashboard with the milestones. And we can pretty much involve or like build any such UIs with an Appian like this. And yeah, here is another example. Not just like input forms, but there is another sector which comes into play for every different industry where you're in, which is pretty much the analytics sector. It is nothing but how you would be able to improve the efficiency of your process only when you are able to understand or see the outcome of the current processes. It can be financial outcome, it can be how efficient your processes are, how efficient your employees are, how the different processes are involving within your organization. All these things will be able to be like all these things are data driven, I would say. So only if you are able to see the underlying data in a much more pictorial way, then you will be able to visualize that. You will be able to question like where in the process you're still lagging and where in the process which you'll have to enhance a little bit further. So Appian pretty much gives enhanced capability of all these reporting features. So similar to how you saw a text field component, you can just simply have a barcode, I'm sorry, a bar chart or a column chart, a pie chart being dragged, different all the different graphs, graphical representation of the reports, anything to do with outcome based reports. All these things you can build a little more easier in Appian coding. So this is how, like from a design aspect, it might look like. A ready to use like a report builder can look something like this, where you'll choose from where you're going to get the source of data, from what and all are going to be the different charts that you will have the data presented with, what is going to be on the different measuring criteria, what is the base of your data. All these things is when you're configuring that, you will be having the final reports or the outcome here. So that is pretty much on the Appian side of it. So taking it one step further is Appian RPA. RPA is nothing but, as we saw earlier, it is robotic process automation. So within Appian, Appian is the a software development platform, as I mentioned. So Appian RPA is not a separate or an independent tool. It is just a feature within the same platform itself. So where you saw the process or the end-to-end workflow, which involves all the human interventions and the tasks, if there is any segment of the process or workflow which is like using or having multiple tasks, which is more repetitive, which is more like can be driven based on certain criteria or conditions, then all those repetitive and rule based tasks that can be automated to the next level, which is using bots, which is nothing but Instead of human intervention itself, you can have the system do those processes automatically. And obviously that will evolve based on the data. It will evolve based on like how efficient it is from a day-to-day aspect. This is some of the key features I wanted to touch base within Appian. So I think I've been speaking a lot till now, so I just wanted to hear you speak as well. Just a quick game. I wouldn't say like a game or a question, I would say. So you see four squares, four small squares within one big square. So I would want to keep four questions before you. One by one, we will go through. This first square where you see my cursor is, you will need to break this into two equal pieces with just drawing one line. Can someone unmute and share like which, like how you would draw that line connecting where to where? This first sector where my cursor is. Just feel free, like there's no right or wrong answers that we'll have to worry about. It is just like your students, your circle. So just feel free to answer them. Anyone ready? This, I mean, like ideally when we progress, it should be like a little more complex. So if you would want to go for the first, you can go for it. Anyone ready? It is a little straightforward. No? Okay, I'll reveal this and probably I'll wait for you to answer the next one. So yeah, if you connect these two dots, you will be able to divide this particular space into two different, I'm sorry, into two equal spaces. So the next is also the same question. Now you will have to divide this space in the second square. So it is just only this square, like leaving out the internal square. So you leave out this space. It is only this inverted L shapes space that you would now divide into three different, three equal segments. Any guesses now? And you can draw two lines here. No? Any guesses? Okay, there's no one to judge here, team, so you can just feel free to guess anything. One. Okay, so I'll reveal that. This is again like just a square shape. Just if you extend both these horizontal and vertical ones, you will get three different or like three equal sized segments. And this one now is a little bit more complex, I would say. The same L-shaped space here in this box, you will have to divide it into four equal segments. And just this L space, leaving out the inner box. Okay, I'll reveal this one since it might be complex here to draw and show. So this is like again just dividing the space here into four L-shaped spaces that will give you four equal segments. Now the last one, I will leave it to you, and I will share like what is going to be the outcome from this exercise that we just went through. So here, this entire box now, you will have to divide it into 7 equal segments. Any guesses? And like this has been like a timed activity like executed in some of the universities and some of the workplace segments as well. And I think the quickest time was around 7 seconds or so to get to the answer. No, I'm not sure if you got it, but the simplest of all the four segments was this one. So this is a square. So ideally, like it is already equally sized on all four sides. So which means like if you just draw vertical or horizontal, how many ever lines you would want, that many segments will be divided into equal shots. So what I was trying to share from here is As we went through these different segments, like the first one, second one, third one, the complexity of the problem was getting a little bit more tougher. But that might have put us in a situation, or like it might have confined our thought process into a decision factor that the last one, when we finally landed upon the final question, might be a complex one. But when you see the actual solution, it was the easiest out of the four. This was the easiest because you know that it is a square, and any number of horizontal or vertical lines will will probably solve that particular question. So it is just thinking outside of the box. So any solution that you're trying to design or build, it deals with the matter of fact how creative you are in your thinking, how logical you are in your thinking to build your solution is what is matters. The solution will pretty much mostly be a simple solution, a straightforward one for the end users. It is for you to get to that point, how creative you are, how you're thinking from the end user shoes. That is what you'll need to start thinking from now on itself. When you're learning code, when you're learning anything of for that matter, see how you can put it into use. That is what is the main question, I would say, that you'll get out of from like after you move from your learning to your next phases of life. That will help you throughout your process. So for the last segment of this session, I just wanted to cover or touch base a little upon hyperautomation. So far we saw about one tool, which was Appian, which was the tool, which is the tool I'm currently involved or I currently work with, but not just Appian. So there is like multiple different automation technologies. So for doing like artificial intelligence is one great example. Machine learning, which comes with the artificial intelligence, that is one great example of technologies. Document processing for just reading the PDFs, scanning the PDFs, analyzing the data within the PDF. We have several document processing tools, and any process automations like the RPA tools, like the robotic process automations. All these are like different technologies which are which serves its own purpose. Say for example, artificial intelligence will help you in terms of like getting the prompt responses from any different for any of your different questions based on certain machine learning methodologies, machine learning mechanisms. So if you're training a particular process model, then based on the data what you what with I'm sorry with whatever you're training that, then you will get the outputs based on that. And say if you're doing the document processing tool, that will help you in terms of like just digitalizing your outputs, just getting your documents generated from a system instead of like doing paperworks, instead of getting printing out all the systems, all the outcomes, doing it a little bit more efficiently. So here, when you have different technologies or different platforms come into play, come into picture into one single end-to-end process, that is what we pretty much call as a hyper automation. So hyper is again like you're involving different tools and platforms basically in an ecosystem or in an environment to solve one particular business processes, one particular solution that we're trying to build. So which can involve any day-to-day activities, any day-to-day segments. So here it is like just a tech stack here. Few very I wouldn't say this is like an over encompassing tech stack for hyper automation. These are just like certain tools which are more frequently used within a hyper automation sector. So we will have like automation through artificial intelligence, automation through like the low code platforms or even no code platforms like Appian things. We will have like robotic process and interventions, business process tools, document processing tools, all these things. And benefits when you see of hyperautomation, when you're involving all these technologies, obviously when it comes to efficiency aspect, when it comes to a performance aspect, it will be pretty much a highly increased productivity, a good quality deliverable. From an end user standpoint, it will be a comfortable usable product, enhanced user experience, any creative thoughts or better innovation you can involve with, even for the people who are working within your system and even for the end users who are being So it is obviously the question or the matter of fact, like who you're going to satisfy, right? Whether your employees, like who are actually dealing with the system day-to-day basis, or whether it is going to be the end users who are going to interact with the system from an end user standpoint. So where you can produce the satisfaction for both these segments of people, that is when you will be able to fully leverage the benefits of hyper automation or HA. So this is again the same points whatever we saw just now. We can bring in the analytics or any insightful process, giving more reporting features, which will be more feasible, which will be more employable, and all the financial level ROIs as well, like the return on investments. So what you're investing in, be it the time, be it the money, all these things, what is going into the system versus what you're gaining out from it, and how accessible is your data, how automated is your process, how agile is your process. All these things will help determine if your hyper automated solution is the best fit for your particular service sector. And this is just a quick statistic I took from the internet, from a recent sector, from a recent study that was done. So industry wide, these and all are the like I would say like large scale industries which are involved like pretty much outside of the government factors or organization. These and all are like the large scale I'm sorry, large scale industries where currently they're starting to involve or like starting to adopt hyper automation. So almost 17 percentage of the banks have involved, 23 percentage from the healthcare sector, 80 percentage of the organizations still targeted to have starting to leverage all these automation technologies by the next year, which is like 2024. And manufacturing, or the which pretty much has all the retail, customer experience, all those industries or sectors coming under that. And this is what was the checklist I was just earlier explaining. So when you are choosing a particular system, it would be a different series of questions that you would need to answer. So say for example, document processing tool might not be required for any of your processes. Say like you're not dealing with any documentations, you're just like purely getting, storing data, and just like sharing it, the reports outside of the system itself, then there's no document processing tool involved. So every single criteria what you will have to deal with in your end-to-end process, in your day-to-day process, that is what is going to be the question solving responses, or which will act as its checklist for determining which hyperautomation technologies will be a best fit for your particular use case. So it is not going to be like you will have AI always, it is not going to be you're going to have robotic processes always. It is based on a based use case that you will be involving each of these technologies on a need basis, I would say. So this is again like some of the use cases where hyper automation is involved in. Banking sector, insurance, customer services mainly, where it involves IT, where it involves retail, medicine sector, government sector, all these things. So yeah, the AI is again like one part of the hyper automation technology itself, where I just wanted to share a couple of examples. So most predominant use case, now we see like AI being called out everywhere. Why is that being called out? Even like now the recent inventions of the chat GPT, that is like your mobile app, where you're able to interact with that chat GPT. It is basically a robot trying to gather information from the from different sources, whatever is available to it, and it is trying to answer your question. So say like if you're asking to summarize a topic for you, and say tomorrow you have an exam, and like on one of the topics where you will need to collect the data from different sources, reanalyze it, study through, look into the current trends, do all those processes and come up with a report. And if you're just going into the chat GPT, and if you're just going to type that summarize and show me so and so topic, it is going to do all these processes for you and give you a report. It is not to make us totally idle, but it is to make our lives a little more easier. So this use case might be dealing with data extraction. It might be dealing with validations on certain things, where and all humans are involved in the loop, documents are involved. All these things are when AI comes into picture. So benefits, again, we saw a lot of benefits. Okay, I will want to end this session with calling out the need of the hour. So probably I'll jump into this topic quickly and then I'll come back to the that one as the last topic. So here, so far we just saw about like what and all other platforms, at least like I'm currently involved with, and like how these are involved in the day-to-day currently in the industry. So how this cycle happens, like how we interact with our clients. This is what we call as a BPM life cycle itself, or an agile life cycle. We call it as the DMAIC model, which is DMAIC, which stands for define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. So these are the like 5 different phases of a life cycle in an agile methodology. So you might have heard these terms to some extent: agile, waterfall, all these terms to a certain extent, like when you're studying through your engineering courses. And when it comes to the actual deployment, when it comes to the actual experience at your workplace with your clients, so this is kind of the life cycle which you will go through. So design is nothing but the phase when you try to basically solution your system. So you're trying to understand what is the problem in the business process, and you're trying to do the data modeling, how you can from where you can source the data, how you can design the solution, what and all are the steps in the process which you need to increase the efficiency on. That is what comes under the define phase. Then the measure phase. Measure phase is nothing but comparing the existing output versus what is going to be the expected or the foreseen output, which can be forecasted from your product. And then comes your analyze and improve phase, where you will actually deal with the actual development, the testing, all those life cycle. And finally, when it comes to improve and control, that is when you will be deploying whatever you have developed so far to your end users. So that we call it as the live environment or the production environment for the users itself. So that this is like an sample roadmap how we build. So say for example, when you're going into a project, this kind of a roadmap we will be involving, or like we will be framing first. So to say, like say for example, a project is going to last for like a 1 year, then from Jan to March we will be working on this and we'll be delivering this at the end of March, and from May to June we will be working on this. So that is kind of a roadmap picture which we provide our clients with. So they'll be having a vision of what is going to be the pipeline throughout that year, what when they are expected to receive the deliverables, when they are expected to see something in action, like for them to actually make use of. That is how we pretty much depict a roadmap. And this is like a sprint. Sprint is nothing but a definitive period of time within which you're executing some planned activities, and at the end of which you will have some deliverable for the end user. So these are the different phases I earlier explained through that DMIC. So it will start from requirement gathering, going into grooming all these requirements and designing those stuff. Then comes into planning or prioritizing the items for to be picked up by the sprints. And you here the main team will come into play, doing the development, doing the testing. And end users will do the user acceptance testing, which is pretty much before going into the actual live environment. If you would want to test it with the end users, that is when this user acceptance testing will come into play. And the deployment is where you will make it available to the end users. So I'll just finish off. This will be my last slide. So we saw so many things today, but what is the need of the hour? What is the need in the industry? What is the big question or the real-time problem that we're trying to solve? Any industry that you go with, specifically when you're in the computer department, specifically when you're like dealing with be it information technology, computer science, all these things, the main problem that we will be solving, what we pretty much saw in all these sectors, is how efficient and how quick your process is. So this efficiency will have as a matter of fact, it will have like 2 base sectors. One is how quickly you can build that solution, how quickly you can deliver that solution for the end users. And once it is delivered, how efficient or like how productive it is. So both is a connection or association with the time only. So like how, say for example, you're going to build a process which will help like automating some of the manual tasks on a day-to-day basis. And for just for building that system, if you're going to take 2 years, then it doesn't even come to a point. Like within 2 years, the process itself might have been changed. Something might have happened to the way that we're working today. So how quickly you can do that? That is the first question. And after you have built the system, how quickly this system can automate the day-to-day activities? That is when you come into this low-code platform. So anything that you're trying to do, be it like your like whatever languages you're trying to learn, whatever skills that you're trying to enhance, just question it from a perspective of these two aspects. So how quickly you can build it, how efficiently you can deliver it for the end users. So you can learn anything at this stage of your life. You can learn like just the languages, you can learn different tools, platforms, or even like all the other subjects that you're learning currently. But how you're going to put that into use from like your day-to-day activities itself. So say, for example, you're going to uh, office or like a government office to do some to get some job done, or say like you're going to enter your details or like do something within your college or university itself. So try fitting those use cases, or try thinking of those use cases, how you can solve it a little more efficiently through your coding. So that is how, like when you start thinking, when you start wearing that analytic cap, when you start thinking outside of the box for those solutions, you will be able to pretty much be able to logically design a solution when you come to that place. So it is not a secretive solution, I would say, but building an optimized process, building a low code process, leveraging all these different platforms which is already available, that is the main hard demanding factor in the industry today, team. So that is where I wanted to end with today. I hope, yeah, I think just on time. So any questions for me, anything specific to the topics what we went through, or anything about the industry or what you would want to listen?
Okay, so if participants, if you have any queries, you may ask.
Okay,
Okay,
I
I
mean,
think that,
yeah.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
No, I was just about to say like it doesn't have to be like a query immediately as well. Like if you would want to think through these aspects, you can think through definitely. So the only question I would want to leave you with is whatever you're learning on a day-to-day basis, try putting that into the use case, what you see around you. That will help you to solve or like increase your logical thinking capabilities and how you design a solution, like whichever organization or sector that you choose finally, like after your placements and stuff. Yeah, that is all, ma'am.